Hello everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and this week we're going to focus on page formatting, like setting up our pages so that our documents look exactly the way we want. We're not really going to focus on text. This week we're going to focus on orienting our page properly. And so here's an outline of what we're going to cover in this video. Page layout, printing documents, breaks, columns, headers and footers, page numbers, stuff like that. So first, let's talk about page layout. Page layout is really refers to the page itself, how big it is, what the orientation is, what the margins look like, stuff like that. So we're going to get into that. Let's go into orientation. Now, orientation is really referring to, is this a portrait or a landscape? Basically, is this standing straight up or is this laying on its side? That's really the difference, right? We can make it portrait or we can make it a landscape document. Now, landscape, notice it's wider than it is tall. So that's the definition of landscape. It's really that simple, and you can change it here in the Layout tab. Next, we want to look at page size. So there are a number of default page sizes here. Letter is our standard page size, 8.5 by 11. Most, if you grab a regular just piece of paper, printer paper, it's 8.5 by 11. There are some other ones on here. Legal is 8.5 by 14. All kinds of stuff. We can actually create our own custom page size here if we wanted to. We can go in and change to be the exact width and the exact height that we're looking for. So that's cool stuff. You can get into that a lot if you really, really want to. Margins. Margins refers to the area, the dead area around your document where text will not live. Text won't go there, right? Notice how this is all, if I type a bunch of stuff here, it will actually move me to the next line before I get to the end. Uh-oh, here we go. So now it's pushed me down to the next line before I even got to the end. There's this little space here. That is our margins. Now, margins make it so that we can have a document that not only looks nice, it doesn't get super crowded, but also when we print it, it's not going to cut off a bunch of, important stuff if it's printed just slightly wrong, right? Now we can change our margins by going up to our margins, and we can change it from normal, which is a 1-inch margin around the entire document, to something like narrow, to make it 0.5 inches, or a moderate, or wide, or mirrored, or whatever we want. And we can actually customize our margins to make them what we want. We can go in and change every single margin error. Now, one thing that I want to show you is that there's this option for gutter. Gutter is an extra bit of margin on either the top or left to account for printing. If we're doing a multiple page document, we can have a gutter on the left so that it will give us even more bleed room. So when we bind it together, it'll look good when it's printed and bound together. So anyway, that's what gutter means. But we have top, bottom, left, and right. That's mainly what you're going to focus on with margins. All right, let's talk about printing. I'm not going to get too deep into printing just because we're not going to print really any of our assignments in this class. But if you want to print a document, you can go into your print options in the Backstage view, and you can really get deep into these options. You can print all of the pages. You can print it on 2 sides. You can collate so that you can set the order of your print job. So it could be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or it could be page 1, 1, 1, page 2, 2, 2, page 3, 3, 3. You can change it like that. You can change the margins on your print job here. You can change it so that you have multiple pages per sheet. So you can take this one page and make it, print it 6 times on one page, whatever you want. And then you can print it to your printer. Again, we're not going to do any printing in this class, so I'm not going to dig too deep into that. Let's talk about page breaks. Page breaks are fun. Page breaks are some people consider page breaks the bane of their existence, but I actually enjoy page breaks. Page breaks essentially means I want to set a place where my page is going to end, right? No matter what, I want my page to end here. Instead of waiting to get to the end of the page, I want to insert a page break. So I'm actually going to put a page break in right here. So I want this to be the first page and all this to be on the second page. So I put my cursor where I want it to go, and then I go up here to breaks. And we have all kinds of breaks here. We have page break, column break, text wrapping, section breaks, whatever. I'm going to click page to make that a page break. So now we can see we have all this on the first page, and then we have this on the second. Okay, so that's a page break. Let's say I want a section break. So I want this to be its own section. I can go up to section breaks, and I have a couple of options. I have next page, meaning insert a section break and start the new section on a new page. I can continuous, so insert a section break and start the new section on the same page. I can make it even or odd, so I can set a section and have it only go to even pages or odd pages. Section breaks are kind of, they're a bit much. They're really only used for specialized documents if we're doing something specific. Like we only want stuff to go on even pages or odd pages, and we want all the opposite, we want all the odd pages to be blank or whatever. That's really what we're doing. Plus, if we set a section break, we can actually find those section breaks and hyperlink to them too, which is pretty cool. Other types of breaks that we have are column breaks, which we're going to talk about in the next section. We have text wrapping, which basically allows us to set, I didn't mean to do that. If we have a picture, which when we get into images, we're going to talk a lot more about text wrapping. But if I had a picture here or another section, I can actually change the wrap settings for this section so that it actually wraps around the picture instead of gets pushed out of the way. Again, we're going to talk about that a lot when we get into images. All right, what's the next thing? Oh, deleting breaks. So it's really hard to tell where my page break is. I mean, I can tell, but it's hard to tell exactly where it is. So I'm going to go to my Home tab and turn on my annotations here. And I can see that I have, there's my page break. So if I go to my page break and hit, not that. If I go to my page break and I delete it, there we go, it gets rid of the page break. So that's pretty easy to do. You could just manually delete them. They're just like any other text object in Microsoft Word. Okay, let's talk about columns. Columns are fun. I like columns. I'm actually going to create this as a columned thing. So I'm going to select everything, go back to layout, go to columns. So I have some options here. I can choose to have just one column, which is normal. I can have 2 columns, 3 columns. I can have a left small column, and then the rest is going to be fill up the rest of the page. I can have a right small column, and the rest is going to fill up the page. I can actually customize my columns here a little bit more. I'm just going to do a basic 2-column layout, and it just took all my stuff and then it split it in half and put some of it in this column and some of it in that column. It's pretty easy stuff. And again, I can format my columns so that I have, different stuff. Like I can have 3 columns, or I can have a left column, or a right column, whatever you want to do. And depending on the format of your text, different things are going to make more sense for different projects. All right, so let's say I want to remove my columns. Well, it's pretty easy. I can either just change the formatting back to 1 column, or I can, that's pretty much it. You just move it back to 1 column. It's pretty easy. All right. So let's add some column breaks, huh? This is where it gets fun. So let's say right here, I want this to be the end of this column, right? So I'm going to add a column break right here. I go into breaks, column, and boom. Now this is 1 column, and that's 1 column. Forced it right there at the column break. Cool. Pretty easy stuff. Really easy stuff. Alrighty, headers and footers. Headers and footers are something you may have played around with before, but you may not know exactly how to mess with them. So let's talk about creating new headers and footers. So if I go over to my insert here, I have an option for header and an option for footer. Now, I can just click blank and create a blank footer or a header, which header goes at the top of the document, footer goes on the bottom. Now, the thing that you want to notice is that headers and footers are going to be on every single page of your document. So if I create a header on my first page. It's actually going to be on every single page from now on. Now I can change it so that I have a different first page right here, or I can change it so I have different odd and even pages right here. Those are really helpful tools. But usually you're going to have a header that just has the same thing on every page. And it could be things like, your name on one side, and then on the other side you can have, the class. So, like, I'll grab that and I can actually right align that. So let's go to it's going to right align the whole thing. Well, let's see. I want it to look like that. So let's do this. Let's just do that. Header just like that. And now it's going to be on every page. Now I want to format my header actually. I want to, instead of just creating this header the way it is like now, I'm going to get rid of the text here. I want to change the format of my header so that I have, I don't know, I could do the 3, I could do, oh man, there's all kinds of presets here. So let's do the 3, right? So now I have 3 sections. I could put my name here, David Storm. I could put the date here, which I'll show you in just a second. And I could put my class here, word processing. Perfect. The date is actually pretty cool. I can insert a date just by going to insert, and then what am I looking at? Right here. Date and time. Boom. And I can choose the format I want. Like today is June 11th. Yes, I'm a nerd. I spend my summer making videos for you guys. So I could do it that date, or I could do it like this. I like that format, and click OK. And now, every time I open up this document, it'll still be June 11th. If I wanted to change that, make it so that it was different. Oh, not the whole thing. Oh, whatever. Let's get rid of that. If I wanted to make it so that it changed every time I open the document to the actual date, I can find my format and click Update Automatically, which means it will automatically change the date for whenever I open the document. Cool. So that's inserting date and time. Perfect. Now I can double click outside of the header so that I can modify the rest of my document. And if I want to go back and change things in my header, I can double click and do that there. Now, footers are literally the same thing. I can insert a footer and it's just the same thing. It's just on the bottom of the page, right? Cool. All right, page numbers. So I want to add some page numbers. If I go to layout, I have an option for page numbers here. I can go to page number. I can do continuous page numbers, restart on each page, restart each section, suppress for current paragraph, all that stuff. So continuous is just regular page numbering, and it's going to go right where I tell my cursor, right where I put my cursor. So I can put it right where I want it to go. Specifically, I can go into, oh, I deleted my G there. I can go down into my footer, and I can go to, well, I actually have my options here. I could do page number here, top of the page, whatever. I'm going to go back to layout. Page number, I'm just going to do continuous. Oh, gosh. That didn't work. Not the way I wanted it to do that. So I'm going to go back to page numbers and none. All right, now in my footer, I can click here, go page number, and I can do, like bottom of the page onto the right. And now every time, if I have another page, it'll have, page 2, page 3, page 4, so on and so forth. I can also format my page numbers so that I can change the number formatting to, Roman numerals or, whatever I want. I can include chapter numbers. I can continue or start at different places. So there's a lot of things you can do with page numbering. Make sure you play around with page numbering, because if we get into multi-page documents later on and you have to actually do the numbering, it can be frustrating if you're not familiar with what you're doing. So Anyway, that's all we need to talk about with formatting. The challenges this week are going to be focused on this stuff. So if you watch this video and you followed along and you explored a little bit on your own, you should be able to do the challenges on your own. I will have a video where I'm showing you what the final document should look like when you're finished. But I'm not going to walk you through it like I did last week. I'm not going to hold your hand through every assignment in this class. I want you to branch out and do these on your own a little bit. But that is a couple formatting things that you can play around with and practice. And again, look at the external resources I gave you. They go into way more depth and way more detail on these things that I showed you today. So if you get stuck, you can always ask my help, but most of the information is there. I'm going to stop rambling, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you for paying attention.